How's everyone? Are you guys happy? If not, we can get some more beer. So people who are sitting in the back, do you guys want to just come in the front? Because it's too hard to see you guys over there. Why don't you guys just come up front? I mean, the VIP guys don't care. They're not even here. So just come on up front. Can we have some of the volunteers get the folks to just come up front? Yeah, just remove the barrier and just come on. We don't have all day, guys. Come on. So we haven't done this kind of a format before. Basically, what we are going to have is a live Skype call, and we have Scott Santens on Skype already, and we have Greg Slepak here. Scott, you look really handsome on the big stage.
Thank you. I can't see it, but I will leave you.
But you're on a giant video wall right behind us. I wish I could show you this. I wish there was a camera that could, yeah.
Somebody take a picture or a video.
So this conversation is about universal basic income. And I just want to talk to Greg and Scott and understand why is it important to us, where is it headed, and how fast it's going to come through in the next couple of years, and just basically have a quick conversation before our final presentation by Toneways. Is that okay? How many of
Are you guys awake?
So how many of you here are aware or know about UBI, or at least have heard about it? Who wants to ask Scott a few questions on that? After we are quick, okay, so just make sure you're right here and we'll give you the mic. So Scott, tell us what is UBI, and just give us an overview of that.
Sure. So basic income is a form of Social Security that's a stipend that's provided to everyone individually without conditions. So this would be provided universally without work requirement and will be earned in addition to all income, as in it's an income floor that all income can be earned on top of.
Got it. So isn't it more or less like Social Security?
Well, yeah, Social Security is essentially like a form of basic income with an age requirement, although it's not an equal amount per senior. So universal basic income would be the same amount, say in the U.S., about $1,000 per month for everybody, for all adults mostly. And then you can either have an amount for children as well, or just for adults.
And in your opinion,
so that I think
so what's wrong with the Social Security? I mean, if the age requirement was not there, do you think it is similar to UBI?
Well, there are definitely problems with Social Security because, first of all, not even all seniors get it. And there's also the big variance. So especially like if you look at gender differences. So for the most part, because women do a lot more care work at home, then they're not able to put away as much income through employment, so that after retirement, they earn less than men. And that is a problem on its own. And then, of course, there's just a wide variety. So that, say, some people are earning less than $1,000 per month of Social Security, and then some are earning, up to, like, say, $3,000, which is pretty much the maximum right now if you've been able to put in, the full amount through your whole working career.
Greg, I know you're working on group income, group voluntary income, if I'm correct.
Group income, yeah, that's correct.
How is that different from universal basic income, or is it the same?
That's a great question. So traditionally, the concept of a UBI is a government established, legislated, and operated program for an entire country. And the difference between that and group income is that with group income, we are just creating what is effectively a decentralized accounting tool to let any group of individuals, for example, a group of friends and family or like a church community, to provide themselves with a basic income if they want. And it operates on precisely the same principles that basic income operates on. So it's kind of a voluntary tax, the purpose of which is to ensure a minimum safety floor for all members of the group.
Give us an example of what is that, like in what instance would it trigger that safety net? Is it an accident, death in the family? What are we talking about from a safety net perspective?
So the safety net is not triggered. It's always there. The idea is that as long as the group has enough income to cover this minimum amount, which we call a mincome, because it might be smaller than a basic income, it's up to the group to decide what that value is. For example, a group of 5 people might get together and say, well, we want to make sure that everyone in our group is covered monthly $50 minimum, and that'll be our mincome. And together we'll say, well, here's how much I have extra income at my disposal that I can pitch in, and somebody else in the group might be, for example, a single mother who is juggling with various responsibilities and really needs to be at home taking care of the kid, not working a 9-to-5 job. She would be supported by this group and whatever they decide the income is.
So would the people in the group be putting in that $50 into the pot every month, and it's a flat amount per member, or is it a graded, scaled amount that everybody's putting in the pot for that person who needs this?
Yeah, so I like to use a visual to describe how the actual algorithm works, because it's really simple. If you imagine the incomes of all of the members sorted by, from the least amount to the highest amount, so a bar graph. So, it might look like this. The mincome will be a line, and below the line is everybody who's making less than the mincome, and above the line is everybody who's making more than the mincome. And then the algorithm looks proportionally how much more are the people who are making more than the mincome making. And based on that, it does its best to lift everybody below the line to the line.
Interesting. Why should we care about this? Like what's happening, or where is this, why is this even in the conversation?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. This is a wonderful place to ask it too, because one of the reasons why a lot of people are here is because of tokens and cryptocurrency and all of this other stuff. And I notice just how much of their human activity is devoted to revolving around obtaining funds, and all of their cognitive capacity is focused on this problem of how do I obtain this money so that I can go do that thing that I actually want to do. And the idea behind basic income is, well, that is a cognitive load not just on everyone in this room, it's a cognitive load on all of humanity. And basic income removes some of the anxiety from people's lives so that they can more easily pursue those things that they want to pursue.
You're basically saying that mankind is at a stage, like our civilization is at a stage where we should not just be working and paying bills till we die, but we should have the freedom to do what we would like to do, but at the same time we don't have to worry about paying our bills, and we have some kind of a amount that's given to us.
Effectively, yeah, sure. Although there could still be bills that you might be paying, the idea of basic income is just sort of the basics, covering the basics. It's not going to get you, the amount of income that you can expect from a full-time job. But the point is it removes the worry of having to ensure you're not going to starve to death or be out on the streets.
Got it.
Yeah, a good way to think about this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you cover the basics, then once people are no longer just seeking to meet, just survival, then so much more is possible because people have much greater needs that are above your most basic needs. People seek meaning and connection, and just like with blockchain, like Greg was just talking about, there's so much work that people want to do that they're effectively prevented from, and this work could be paid or unpaid. And right now we live in this system where it's like the only work that's seen as valuable work is actually employment. And this opens up that possibility to actually do so much more that's actually work that we don't currently see that way.
And Scott, is the government trying to do any of this? Is this a private initiative? Why is it not or is there a movement behind it that's
Oh, sure. Yeah, so this is something that was bigger and actually very close to happening back in the U.S. in the 60s under Nixon proposed a version of a basic income guarantee. And it's back now because of automation. People are hearing about, what are the possibility of half of all employment automated in the next 20 years. So people are thinking, okay, so if there's going to be so much less work to do, how does that affect the economy? How does it affect people's lives? What kind of options do we have? So countries all over the world are actually really starting to look at this, although US is looking at this from an automation perspective, but that's not the only way to look at it. Finland is a really good example of another way of looking at this, because they're looking at it from a more of a new present of work perspective, where the existing system actually prevents people from, or at least disincentivizes people from taking paid part-time work, temporary work, these kinds of things. Because a means-tested system that all governments use essentially right now, that is actually pulled away when you accept employment. So if you're going to lose whatever benefits that you're receiving, if you accept or do some kind of employment, then why would you do that? Especially if you're thinking, okay, so this is temporary, I'm going to go back and I have to actually go through this process again, and hopefully I'll get it, maybe I won't. So it's like a very sticky kind of system. Basic income isn't sticky at all. It allows people to actually go to and from work. It's always there no matter what, so you can, accepting any amount of work actually leaves you better off. So that's really, Finland is testing that actually right now for the next 2 years, where they're giving a group of people who are unemployed with essentially a basic income. So if they accept work, they keep that. They don't lose it for actually doing work. They keep it. And so that's the way they're looking at it, and that's one of another way to actually look at the benefits of basic income is this more of a 21st century safety net versus right now where we've essentially developed our safety nets around a old version or old thinking of work that no longer exists, where people just don't work these careers for 40 years full time anymore. There's a lot more variability in work, variability in incomes, and we need to actually recognize that.
Scott, how did we survive in the last couple of 100 years? I'm pretty sure that in the last few 100 years, printing presses have, well, not printing presses, handwritten, people used to write books in the olden ages. That got automated. How did they survive during that time, and how is the automation that's going to hit us now different? I mean, I'm pretty sure in the last 2,000 years of our civilization, we have gone through automation of many different, we had industrial age as well, so the cotton mills went away. What happened to those folks in those positions, and why should we care about it now?
Yeah, so the difference now, there's not only a difference in the type, so that back then you were more about automating muscle labor, and we've actually reached the point where we can automate mental brain thinking labor thanks to artificial intelligence. And so it opens up a whole world of work that's not only low skill, but medium skill, high skill, everything can be covered. You can automate, and we are automating lawyers already and doctors already. Like, this work can actually be done now, artificial intelligence. So that's one big difference that didn't exist before, because before we're able to shift from, say, manufacturing to service sector work, and before that, it was from agriculture to manufacturing. But service sector work is really kind of the end of the road as far as like this kind of giant sector of work that's possible. And the big difference also now is the rate. It's very important to understand that the rate is different. So back in the day, you didn't see like ginormous eliminations of labor and hoping that this new labor could be created at the same rate. So if you look at, say, truck driving is a really good example in the US. And this is something with millions of people who actually have this as their job. And it's an ecosystem where other people's incomes depend on the existence of truck drivers. So we're looking up to potentially, say, 10 million people who could be affected by the existence of self-driving trucks. So essentially overnight, in like realistically it'd be a course of years, but in the big scheme of things, overnight you could eliminate all of these jobs. And are all those people going to immediately find new jobs again? I don't think so.
Yeah. I'd like to actually add to that it's not necessarily the case that people did survive those previous transitions. I'm sure a lot of people ended up faring quite poorly. And if we had had basic income back then, they would have done a lot better. There would have been a lot less stress in everyone's life.
So Scott and Greg,
I just want to add. Can I just add something to that too? It's really important because we already are seeing the effects of automation, and we're already ignoring those effects. So we're actually, people are being put out of work. If you look at the small towns around the U.S., rural areas, people who voted for Trump in hopes of getting incomes back from lost work, like these real effects. I would say even the opioid crisis is a result of this as well. Like there's a lot of effects going on. And you can't just say that, because there's, say, more jobs created elsewhere, and maybe those don't even pay as much, and maybe they're just people don't even like them as much, and they're far more insecure, that everything's okay. You have to look at beyond just the unemployment rate.
So Scott, what you're saying with that trucking example, you're saying roughly the entire trucking employment is probably going to be outdated in like 4 years, 3 or 4 years, because level 4 autonomy is slated for 2020. So you're saying within the span of 3 years, we're going to have truck drivers, probably drive-through workers as well, right?
Yeah, I would think we're going to see a lot of automation really coming quickly around 2025. Like this is like at a rate that we've never seen before. We're already seeing, the introductions of this, but it's just like the front part of it. Whereas because there's exponential growth, then this is going to really come on hard and fast. And actually, blockchain itself is part of this as well. There's a lot of ability with blockchain to automate essentially the middleman in so many different sectors. So that's going to have an effect as well.
Got it. And Greg, you're already working on this. So how is blockchain also going to, in other words, help us implement the basic income pieces of it? How do you look at blockchain from that perspective?
Well, I look at blockchain technology as not limited just to addressing basic income problems. I come to this world from a security background, information security. And now, with my interest in basic income, I also just look at that entire space from a security perspective, financial security. And blockchain technology just happens to be what I consider to be the correct way of writing software that interacts with the internet in a secure way. And so the work that I'm doing with Group Income simply utilizes blockchains because it deals with the internet. It deals with a group of people who interact with each other over the internet. And sure, you could have a cryptocurrency that is focused solely on basic income. But blockchain technology can be used to implement basic income in so many different kinds of ways. And in Group Income, we're not doing a cryptocurrency. We are using it as an accounting system that can work with any cryptocurrency and any fiat system as well.
Nice. How quickly, Scott, do you think we can have a working system in place in the U.S.?
Well, I think it's just a matter of will. This is not like a technical issue. This is not, we could have done this again back in 1970 when actually a version of it passed the House of Representatives under Nixon. So this is something that we could have done for a long time. The question is, how much time will it take for people to really support the idea strongly? So, right now, the most recent surveys show like a little over like 40% support. So there's a plurality of support with surveys. But when does that get up to 80%? When is it that we start demanding it from politicians so that politicians actually feel that they have to actually be for it and be running on it in order to win their elections? So the question is, looking at this perspective, especially from automation with this kind of 2025 window, can we establish it before then? I think we can, but I actually think it's going to be a challenge. This is not going to just automatically happen. People are going to have to push for this. And I think that blockchain is definitely a part of this conversation where this can actually, you can have a positive feedback loop between them as well. Just like with group income, you can come up with cryptocurrencies that actually pay a dividend to actually holders of the currency. And I think that's actually kind of a missing ingredient in the realm of cryptocurrency as well, that I think could actually aid in a faster adoption. Because, what if a currency actually paid you to be part of its ecosystem? And the more transactions, the more people got paid. The value of these networks, like Facebook, but also just the value even in Bitcoin, it's from the actual people who use it. So what if this was recognized and people actually received a dividend for using it? I think that would actually aid in people wanting to use these systems. It could accelerate it. And if people are receiving a dividend for kind of like being a netizen dividend, a recognition of them creating the value of these networks, then I think that would aid in the adoption of a universal basic income, because people would actually see that they've earned it, that it's not some welfare scheme or something about just poverty. This is something that people have earned as being part of the network, part of the value creation. Got it.
I think we're out of time, but I still want to let you guys ask questions. I know there was one gentleman who wanted to ask a question. Is there anybody who want to ask a question? Otherwise, on that note, come on in.
Hi, my name's Jin. I have a company called Circus. Universal basic income greatly interests me as a capitalist, because I'm trying to make money so I can create a future for my family and be part of the society. What we do know right now is robotics, AI, automation, nanotechnology, and a whole slew of other things are really going to become a job apocalypse in the next, you said 20 years? It could be 5 to 7 years. We're talking about millions of trucking jobs going out of existence, but it's also going to get rid of all the Lyft and Uber drivers as well. How many millions of jobs is that? McDonald's this year is automating every single one of their cashiers to kiosks. JP Morgan outsourced 200,000 hours of human accounting jobs last year. So it's getting faster and faster, and this hockey stick is getting a little more clear. My question to you guys as the experts, and maybe to the room, is who is going to finance the UBI? Because I think it's important that it's there. People say, you can just instantly get a new job. Well, why don't you just get some education? But it's not going to happen that fast. There's going to be a huge gap. And during that gap, who's going to buy from Amazon? Because Amazon could kill Best Buy or whatever. Who's going to buy your iPhone? When you have this disposable income just gone from society, who is going to propel every business? It's not just the undereducated. I know we are out of time. Oh, sorry about that.
Yes.
Scott, you want to answer that quickly?
Yeah. So I think we're even already seeing this. I think that if you look at, say, the retail apocalypse that's happening, it's not only Amazon that's responsible for that. I think there's actually, and you see this in the numbers, a lack of consumer buying power. So people, and this makes sense because real wages haven't increased for decades. All the growth has been actually at the very top. So with wages stagnant for 40 years and with prices going up over time, then people just have less and less to spend on other stuff. And because of that, then you're already seeing these companies go out of business. So it's even on the flip side of that, as a business creator, as you were saying, that if basic income creates customers as well, and that's kind of the flip side of this people need to understand, is that if there's more people with more money to actually spend into the economy, then that's actually better for everybody. Right now, there's kind of a starvation of demand that's happening, and basic income would actually do a lot for that.
Well, thank you, Scott. Thank you for joining us on Skype. Really appreciate that. And thank you, Greg. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Kurt.
And next up is Tone Ways. And thank you, Tone, for waiting. Come on up.